With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, GoPowercat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Now, here's your host, GoPowercat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the Powercat Postgame Podcast. Tim Fitzgerald in the Cats and Dogs studio here in Manhattan, Kansas, and Cole Carmody in a hotel in Orlando. Sounds like a great start to a novel. He was in a hotel in Orlando wearing mouse ears. Cole, quite a game last night. I'm sorry the media didn't get a shot at the edible mascot. I'm greatly disappointed in that.
Some of us did, though.
Ooh.
Some of us did, including one of our very own, had a chance to take a bite out of the mascot. I'm not going to name names, but it wasn't me. He did work for GoPowercat, and he was down here, but it wasn't me. He had a chance to grab a piece of the edible mascot, and he chose not to.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me, but my disappointment in Zach Carlson is immeasurable right now. Cats win 28-19. As I said on my daily delivery this morning, I was just whelmed. I wasn't overwhelmed by this team or underwhelmed. I was just whelmed. I thought it was a solid, good performance. They beat a ranked team in a bowl game. I wasn't overwhelmed by anything I saw, but boy, they got it done. When they needed a defensive stop, they got it. And when they needed to run out the clock or get another touchdown, they did it. Wasn't beautiful, but winning is beautiful, so maybe it was.
Here's where I'm at, and everybody is going to talk about Avery Johnson and Conor Riley, and rightfully so. But I want to talk about the defense a little bit because that, I think, is kind of an underrated storyline of this game. I think everybody kind of assumed that, the offense would be fine. They would pick up right where they were. Everybody was looking forward to seeing Avery Johnson. He's this dynamic playmaker, and we're going to have plenty of time to talk about that. But people forgot that the defense probably lost more. I mean, yes, the offense lost Will Howard and Treshaun Ward. Huge losses. Same thing you can say Benson and Phillip Brooks. But those guys, I think, production-wise, were fairly replaceable. And I think you saw that, especially at the pass-catching position. You lost those guys, but it didn't really have a major impact in the game. There was no one spot where you're like, well, if Phillip Brooks was here, this would have happened. Or if Ben Sinnott was here, this would have happened. Save maybe the drop tight end screen pass from Garrett Oakley. I think Ben Sinnott probably catches that. Other than that, there was really no glaring, wow, they're missing this guy. But on the defensive side, that same can't be said for Kobe Savage, simply because he was very irreplaceable throughout the season. He was the most steady and dominant force back there. Take away his play. He's a leader. He was a communicator. And so I think that's where this team was going to miss. If anybody had entered the transfer portal that they're going to miss, it was going to be him, and it was because of that reason. And I was blown away, Fitz, by VJ Payne and Colby McAllister. I mean, especially VJ Payne. He played the best game of his career. He could have won MVP of that game. I mean, that play he had on the 2-point conversion, it saved the game for K-State. I mean, very easily, if NC State converts that, it's a tie game. I don't think folks realize they were going to tie the game. And you can sit here and say, should they have chased points? Should they have not have chased points? I was actually of the belief that I thought going for 2 at that time maybe wasn't the greatest decision, just because they had been moving the ball on K-State. but they decided to, and VJ Payne said, no, not today. And he laid the wood on Brennan Armstrong with that hit, completely flipped the momentum of that game. And he was finished as the leading tackler. He had 10 tackles, including that just amazing sack of Brennan Armstrong.
Yeah, they chased the points. I would have gone for it there. Mathematically, I'm not into the analytics. I don't know them on those situations, but it ended up haunting them. I mean, once K-State scored another touchdown, it became a 2-score game, and it was indeed over. I've watched that hit about a dozen times now. How he hit him that hard, that high, without targeting, and decleated him. It was absolutely incredible. I think he probably went to the sidelines and they asked him if he was okay. And he said, yeah. They asked him what his name was. And he said, Brendan Armstrong, because he got caught. It set a tone too.
It did.
Because at that point, NC State was gaining the momentum, had the momentum. And that play, not just holding him out, but the violence of that play kind of said, you know what? No, we're not going to let you tie the game. And then K-State kind of took control of it with Avery Johnson. And speaking of Avery Johnson, give me your overall grade on him.
I talked a little bit about it in the video that went up after the game, Cole's commentary, which if you haven't watched it yet, go check it out. I went a little long, Fitz. I was a little over 5 minutes. I know we have to keep those.
It was good.
You know what? I was trying to wrap my head around what I had just saw from Avery Johnson. And there were plays that, and I'm not going to compare him to Will Howard. I don't think that's fair, because this is a completely different team with Avery Johnson at quarterback than at Will Howard at quarterback. I'm not saying that they're better, not saying that they're worse. They're just a completely different team. You don't call the same plays for Avery Johnson that you do for Will Howard. I mean, you just don't. Nope. And you can't blitz Avery Johnson. If there's one thing that I took away from that game, is that we are going to see a lot of zone coverage against Avery Johnson. We are going to see a lot of straight up 3-man, 4-man rush against Avery Johnson, because you can't blitz him. Yeah. And there's another quarterback who a lot of K-State fans watch on a consistent basis, who that you don't blitz the guy because he finds a way to make a play, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And I'm not going to sit here and compare Avery Johnson to Patrick Mahomes. But the tendencies that he showed last night, it's impossible to watch what he did and not think about number 15 who plays on Sunday and wears red, simply because his ability to scramble out of the pocket, to always keep his eyes downfield. Fitz, that is what is so impressive. This is an 18-year-old kid who, think back to Skylar Thompson for a minute. There were times when Skylar Thompson was at quarterback, when he left the pocket, he was running, no matter what. It didn't matter if there was a guy 25 yards open with nobody around him. He was going to run because he didn't look. Mm-hmm. Well, Avery Johnson knows I'm going to look downfield, but if nobody's open, then I'm going to run. But I also know I'm not going to take a hit. So if I need to throw the ball away, I can throw the ball away. The ability to do that at this level as a freshman, having played this being his first full game against the number 19 team in the country, a top 20 defense nationally, which people forget. That's why I was so excited. The numbers don't blow you away. He finished, 17-31. Well, I got the stats pulled up right here in front of me. So it wasn't anything. Sorry, 14-31, 178 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nothing crazy. The percentage of, the passing percentage is actually probably not that good, but it was the little things that I saw in that game, combined with the fact he didn't turn the ball over. He didn't take any massive hits. He ran the offense efficiently. It was a C game from Avery Johnson, but the intangibles are there, and his C game is a lot better than a lot of other quarterbacks in games.
If you're judging on what his potential is, I would agree with the C. As an overall quarterback performance, probably a B, maybe B minus. But let's point a couple things out here that became very apparent as the game went on. They were very cautious with the quarterback run game. He was, they had a backup quarterback, but Jacob Knuth probably wasn't that prepared to play. He's been the scout quarterback all season long. Right. How much he actually knew of the K-State offense is a curious question for Chris Kleiman and Conor Riley at a later date. So they wanted to protect him. They wanted to keep him safe and out of trouble. And the offensive line certainly did that in passing situations, but they didn't want him just tucking the ball and taking off all the time. But this kid's patient with knowing the importance of the down. Okay, it's second down. I'm just going to throw this one away and live for third down. Or it's third down. We're not in good field position. There's plenty of time in this game. Let's let's just throw this one away, punt, and start again.
Right.
He made the right decision virtually every time on when and where to throw the ball. And his receivers didn't do him any favors. You mentioned Oakley's drop. There were some other drops in there in this game that honestly, the guys need to make those plays. And I also think one of the things I didn't see from the receivers that we've seen Mahomes struggle with this year, as you make that comparison, but has always been good to him in the past, is receivers coming to him.
Yeah.
When he rolls out and the plays breaking down, the receivers all make themselves available. Now, it's been a breakdown on the Chiefs. As a Chiefs fan, I've watched that happen. And it's something these guys are going to have to learn. When you got Avery back there, you got to keep getting open. The play broke down, your route's useless, go find space. And if you do that with it, the way this kid keeps his eyes up is absolutely amazing. That is a hard thing to do when you have all this noise around you, all these guys trying to take you out. And there's Avery Johnson just kind of coolly rolling away from, a 290-pound defensive tackle. Cole, it was impressive at times. Yes, the passing percentage wasn't great, but when he chose or they chose to run him, man, that touchdown run, that just is a little glimpse of what he can do. He just took the ball, had a great pump fake that was totally useless. He wasn't passing the ball where he pump faked it from. The guy just flinched enough. It broke him down just enough where Avery dumped him on his ass and he ran right by him. I watch some of these things Avery Johnson does on the field. I listen to Avery Johnson in press conferences, and when we talk to him, how is this kid a true freshman? I just, his maturity, both as a person and as a quarterback, is astonishing.
Fitz, he is wise beyond his years. And on that particular run you mentioned, I'm sitting up there in the press box, and I'm actually not around any K-State media. I'm not around anybody who covers K-State on a consistent basis. I was actually next to NC State people. And I had a good conversation with some of the people who cover NC State. This is a program that's a lot like K-State, and they are trying to get over the hump. Dave Doran, people forget, he's been there for 10 years now. And they have yet to win 10 games. They've lost 4 straight bowl games. Anytime they go up against any kind of good competition, this seems to happen. Mm-hmm. But they felt like they would win this game. There was a lot of confidence in that fan base. There was a lot of confidence in that locker room that NC State was going to win this game, and they were going to use this and springboard it into the next year. Well, you can kind of tell that bleeds over into the people that cover the team as well. On that particular play, the guy sitting next to me, Avery gets out. I believe that might have been a third down, or maybe it was a second down. It was a third down, yeah. And so that was a big play. And he said, oh, well, they're going to get him. Nope, he's right there. There's no way he gets out of this. And I just turned to him as the play's going, and I go, no, that's going to be a touchdown. And sure enough, makes a guy miss, makes another guy miss, and gets in the end zone for 6. It's like, this kid is different. And Dave Doran was asked a question by Mitch Fortner from K-Man in the postgame. Hey, have you seen a true freshman quarterback like Avery Johnson before? And honestly, Dave Doran was a little standoffish. He was kind of a jackwagon. And he said, yeah, I have, actually. I have. And I'm sitting there, and I want to go, Dave, no, just because you lost, that doesn't mean you have to discount what the guy did. Now, in fairness, he did back it up, and the quarterbacks he compared him to, Vince Young and Lamar Jackson.
Wow. 2
Heisman Trophy winners.
Okay, I'll buy that.
So maybe he walked it back a little bit. But I think that's the potential that Avery Johnson has. And that one particular play fits. That looked like Lamar. Like, that's what that looked like. And it looked like college Lamar where nobody could tackle him. And is he going to have to get bigger? Is he going to have to get stronger? Sure, he is, 100%. He's not perfect by any means. But his attitude lends itself to that. You pair him with a good offensive coordinator, you pair him with a good quarterbacks coach, and this kid is going to grow exponentially, and I think be the best quarterback in the Big 12 and a top 5 quarterback in the country at this time next season. He has that kind of potential, and you saw it. You saw it. Everyone and their mother saw it on Thursday night at the Pop-Tarts Bowl. It was everything he did. You could just see this is different. What he is doing right now is not easy, and it is just different.
I know you voted for Avery as player of the game. I know he probably deserved it. You picked him as player of the game also in your top 10 performers. DJ Giddens, 28 carries, 152 yards. I might have voted for him, Cole.
It could have been. It was either going to be him or Avery, and he was a workhorse.
Yeah,
I mean, that
amazing.
kid, he was not going to go down. And
From the first snap.
It was impressive. I mean, 8.8 yards per carry in the first half. He finishes 5.4. NC State kind of figured him out a little bit in the third quarter, but they figured out K-State in the third quarter. But when they needed to make an adjustment, when they needed it, when the tough got, you know what they say? What is the saying? When the tough gets going, the going gets tough.
When the going gets tough, the tough
gets going. Yeah,
I love it when you screw up sayings. It's kind of your signature. I love it.
Right? Well, DJ got going, and
yeah, he did, man.
He was. I mean, you want to go back to that first touchdown play too, Fitz. I mean, we have to talk about that. Avery Johnson saw the blitz coming, checked to the play, and DJ knew exactly what to do. He saw the blitzer. He saw, okay, there's nobody covering, so he just released. Avery hit him immediately. Touchdown. That is a sophomore and a freshman figuring it out. They repped it a few times in practice. Hadn't run that play all year, but Avery Johnson checked to it, told DJ. They executed it perfectly on fourth down. Those two guys in the backfield together are something else.
Well, and you also have this, Cole, that it struck me that he checked to that play. He recognized the defense. He checked to it and got him in the exact right play and then executed perfectly. But he ends the game with a touchdown to Jace Brown, 11-yard touchdown pass. That was also a check. His two touchdown passes in this game, he checked at the line of scrimmage, read the defense, and made a play. And I'm going to be honest here. I think that was something that's been lacking from the offense. I think Will rolled with the play too often. Mm-hmm. He counted the box and said, we'll just run it anyhow. And it just didn't work. And I know he's taking, stuff from the sidelines too, but these were Avery checks. It was like, no, this is what we're going to do. And if you get a quarterback that can do that, can check properly at the line of scrimmage, man, you're going to win a lot of football games. If you can cut out that whole step of looking to the sideline, they look over, and maybe you do that as a decoy. I'm not sure, but if you can make that less part of your game, the defense is going to have more problems adjusting because you can see them reading, what the changes are, and they got it wrong twice, and they paid the price.
Yeah, they did, and you talk about DJ, and we have to talk about that offensive line too. I mean, yep. I'm sure we were going to get to that, but this is the perfect storm, the perfect scenario for Avery Johnson to make his debut. First of all, I understand there's no backup quarterback, so maybe you take that out of the equation. But there didn't have to be a backup quarterback. K-State could have 0 other quarterbacks on the roster, and Avery would have been fine. He was not touched the entire night in the backfield. That offensive line played its best game of the season when it had to, and those guys were incredible. Cooper Beebe, I think that was a top 5 game for him as a K-State player because he was absolutely mauling everyone. KT Leviston had an outstanding game. Christian Duffy, I thought, played a really good game. And Hayden Gillum, once again, the undersized polling center, finding a way to clear the path. I mean, that's a legacy game for those guys. And I was really happy for them, right? We do this and you get to know them personally.
Yep.
And I was really happy for those offensive linemen because they very easily could have said, we're not going to play in this game. Their quarterback, their friend, to be quite frank, Will Howard, decided that he was going to move on. It could have been very easy for those guys to say, okay, this is a new chapter of K-State. They're kind of, everybody's moving on, but we're going to move on too. But they decided that they were going to stay. And a lot of that had to do with the guy who was calling plays.
Yep.
He stuck around. He got his opportunity, and they were going to make sure that they helped him out because Conor Riley developed them. He helped them grow as young men, and they wanted to help him grow as a coach.
Kansas State wins the Pop-Tarts Bowl 28-19. It played out pretty close to what my game prediction was, but just a few less points than I thought. But boy, Cole, a nice win for the Wildcats, and we're going to turn our attention to the defensive side of the football when we come back after this break, because the defense had some hit and miss moments, but when it counted, Jacob Parrish went through. You're listening to the Powercat Postgame Podcast featuring Fitz and Cole. We'll be right back.
GoPowercat.com's Powercat Podcast continues after this short break.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify is here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Welcome back to the Powercat Podcast.
Welcome back to the Powercat Postgame Podcast. Tim Fitzgerald, Cole Carmody. I am in Manhattan. He is in Orlando. Did you guys get in some golf?
We did not play golf today. We went to Disney Springs.
What is that?
It is like the way I described it was the Legends on steroids. It is a tourist destination. We didn't buy anything, but we walked around. Unfortunately, I broke my own rule. I don't usually eat barbecue that's not Kansas City, but Zach convinced me that we had to try this place, and it was about how I expected. So there you go.
Florida barbecue. Yeah, you always think of Florida when you talk barbecue.
Of course.
Zach's usually good with those choices. That's a bad choice. I'm surprised you didn't eat a sandwich, though.
It was a mutual decision.
Okay. On with the review of Kansas State's 28-19 victory over NC State in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. First of all, Cole, what brilliant marketing. They hit it out of the park.
They did.
That entire post-game thing with the Pop-Tart going down into the toaster. And, oh, nice. It's commemorative. What flavor is it?
I'm not sure. They're strawberry. They handed these out to the players. They handed these out to the media. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry you don't get to experience it.
It's got the logos on it.
But it has the logos on it. So it was another part of that marketing tool that I thought they did a really good job with, as you were mentioning.
Yeah, when they lowered him into the toaster and he held up the little sign that dreams come true, oh, my God, it was so funny. And then the finished Pop-Tart comes out at the end. Everything about this was so well executed by the folks at Kellogg's. Congratulations. I am not a fan of these games, but if that's how fun you can make a brand, oh my gosh, brand marketing there was just incredible. And at times, so was the K-State defense. Brendan Armstrong did apply some pressure to them with his run game. He was pretty efficient at times in this game in terms of tucking the ball and taking off. Let's see his rushing stats here: 17 carries, 121 yards. He was their leading rusher by far. It was, passing. He was 14 to 28 for 164 as compared to Avery 14 to 31 for 178. It's funny. You look at the stats; they're pretty comparable, but the players weren't. Armstrong had a nice run for a touchdown. Avery had a nice run for a touchdown. But Avery never really put the ball in peril. K-State had one interception to close it out, basically. Jacob Parrish gets the late interception, but there was 2 or 3 other balls that could have been intercepted. Marcus Siegel had one right in his hands and dropped it. But the defense came through. This is an offense that scored enough points to win 9 games this season and holding them to 19, getting them an early red zone stop, forcing some field goals. It was just so on brand for the K-State defense.
I was impressed with Damian Alalio. That's another player I want to give a shout out to. The nose guard from Manhattan. No Uso in this game. He did not practice. He hasn't practiced since the KU game, but he did say he's coming back next year. That leaves some spots at nose guard, maybe some question marks there. But Damian Alalio really said, hey, you know what? I'm going to be in that conversation too. That fourth down stop was all because of him. Fitz, he shred through there and made the tackle. K-State played a lot of 4-man front in this game. I don't know if you caught that, but they did, especially on third downs. They would walk Toby Osunsami up from the edge, but it wasn't just their speed rush package. There were times on first and second downs, K-State had a 4-man front. Maybe it was a little bit of an overhang. Is that dude over there, Daphne?
That was Daphne.
Oh, well, glad she agrees with me. But there was some 4-man fronts that K-State showcased, and if you kind of look at the recruiting trail and what they're trying to do there, it makes a little bit more sense. They're kind of moving towards being not just 3-3-5, but maybe of a multiple defensive fronts, and I thought it worked out perfectly. I think it surprised NC State a little bit. Their running backs, man, they could do absolutely nothing. Brennan Armstrong was the only capable offensive skill player for NC State. It was a 2-man show. Casey Concepcion and Brennan Armstrong. And other than that, NC State had no one. I mean, I was surprised that K-State was able to shut Concepcion down. I know he ended up with 70 yards receiving, but one of those plays came on a deep pass of 40 yards where Jacob Parrish kind of fell down, and another pick that could have been an interception. He kind of falls down and Concepcion comes down with it. But I mean, yeah, this defense, when they needed to make stops, and keep in mind, they held NC State to 3 field goal tries. One of them they missed. And so those three stops were also huge, along with the 4th down stop in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, K-State cashed in all 4 of their opportunities to score. They just did. And NC State had more opportunities to score and scored less points. And that comes down to the defense getting it done when they needed to be. And they were taped together on the back end. They just they've run out of linebackers. They just had to play what they had, and they had some young safeties running around. And I thought they got out of that pretty good. That 3rd quarter, I don't know about you in the press box, but I think all of us were like, uh-oh. They made some great halftime adjustments at NC State. Can K-State readjust? And by God, Joe Klanderman and the crew got it fixed and got it settled down.
10 players that started in that game on the defensive side of the football are all returning next year. Wow. Think about that. Khalid Duke's the only one who's expected not to come back. He hasn't actually said he's going to go to the draft. He hasn't said if he's going to come back or not. I'm not ready to actually say that he's not going to come back, because if he hasn't said he's going to the NFL draft by now, there might still be some decisions to come with Khalid Duke. He maybe didn't have the season he wanted to have this year. But
I pointed this out on the Fitzcast, that I don't expect much more to happen with guys making decisions to come back or transfer portal guys coming in until after the portal closes. And that way, hey, we're bringing in a receiver. Your receivers don't hit the portal. And I think that's what's going on now. It's going to be kind of a quiet time. I know Chris Kleiman's taking some time off, just a brief little time off, not anything extended, because it's been an amazing grind from the season. You get to the end of the season, you think, oh, let's take a breath. Not for these coaches. They just go right into recruiting and the transfer portal and preparation. Oh, yeah, your offensive coordinator took another job. Got award ceremonies. It's just a constant motion until that game's over. And it's going to sit up by a beach, I think, for a while. But he's still got a lot to do here. He's got to decide if Conor Riley is his offensive coordinator, who is going to coach the quarterbacks. Will that individual be a co-coordinator with Conor Riley? At this point, I know Conor Riley is going to have offensive coordinator in his title. Whether it's full on all by himself or a co is the question. I continue to question whether he wants to be up in the press box and away from his troops as an offensive line coach. And I think, we might have co-coordinator things where the quarterback coach is up in the press box. But give me your overall evaluation of what Conor Riley did. I'll be really honest. I wasn't blown away. But, hearing some of the limitations with taking Avery out of the quarterback run game a little bit, I understand. And you know what? I just don't think receivers were available. Again, you can't call successful pass plays if your receivers aren't getting consistently open. It's a problem that's been lingering with this program for many years. It's got to get solved with this class, and they've already missed out on some transfer portal guys. Is Conor Riley the right guy?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the first 2 quarters looked like the answer was a resounding yes. I think after that, there were maybe some more questions that started to emerge as to what's going wrong in the second half, right? To be completely honest, I would be totally on board if Kansas State named Conor Riley the offensive coordinator. I know that that's maybe not a very popular take, but the way he develops offensive linemen, I would be very intrigued to see if that trend can continue for some of the other players on the offensive side of the football. So I know that the offensive line is his specialty, and I get that. But what he's been able to do with that group kind of should give you confidence that, well, if he's able to develop these guys, maybe he can develop the rest of the offense. I think that as far as the game goes, again, you're right, Fitz. When Jace Brown, Keegan Johnson, Jaden Jackson, those are your top three receivers. There needs to be some reshuffling there. I think Jace Brown can be a really solid receiver. I'm not ready to say he can be a number one receiver, but he can be a number one target. They opted to play him on the outside and play Seth Porter in the slot. I know there was some fans that maybe were a little bit frustrated with that, but I think Seth Porter earned that opportunity to showcase that in his final game. And I'll be completely honest. I had talked to several scouts. There was a few scouts there from the CFL, and Seth Porter was one guy that they were circling on their radar as we want to see what this guy can do, because they think he might be a fit for their game. So I don't know if that had anything to do with that. But I do know that Seth Porter did make a big play when need be. There was a third down conversion he had to catch for 15 yards and a first down. That was a big play that K-State needed. Very well could see Trey Spivey on the outside next season, along with Keegan Johnson and Jace Brown in the slot. Those three receivers, I think, are guys that will be backbone guys for this offense. But if they go get another receiver from the portal, I think you feel really confident about 4 receivers and potentially the return of Jane Jackson as well, guys that will be able to make plays for you, along with Garrett Oakley. So I think the playmaker and the offensive skill position side of things is actually trending in the right direction. The question is, do you want Conor Riley to be there with them? Sure, you can say the third quarter was not good, but go back and watch the fourth quarter. Go back and watch those 16 plays on that 7-minute drive. They called plays specifically designed with an end goal of mind. We are going to run the ball down their throat. When they are expecting run, we're going to run a play action pass for a touchdown. I think there's some things there. Does he call plays like an offensive line coach? I hate that narrative, to be completely honest, because I think the best play caller of all time, and Andy Reid, he's an offensive line guy. I think offensive line guys get a bad rap, being a former offensive lineman. But I do. I think Conor Riley can take this job with anything. There's a learning curve there. People want to compare him to Colin Klein, but people also forget that was a 6-6 LSU team with literally third stringers, and also a 5th-year, 6th-year quarterback, a guy in Deuce Vaughn who was pretty dang good, and some other very veteran receivers. So you cannot compare those two circumstances to what Conor Riley walked into with freshmen and what Colin Klein walked into with 5th and 6th-year seniors.
I agree. I want to point out Seth Porter also had a punt return for a touchdown.
He did.
Called back for an absolute trash call.
What was the reaction like on the Fitzcast, by the way?
Well,
I meant to go back and look.
They didn't put up the flag symbol. The flag we never saw the flag get thrown. It must have been really late.
It was.
Every time they showed the replay, there's no flag anywhere in that frame. And, I mean, Seth's celebrating the end zone. Then they put up the little yellow flag thing on the monitor. I'm like, really? How late was that? It reminded me, it's my way back machine, 2001 out of 2000. I'm not sure. Kansas State opened the season in Arrowhead against Iowa, and David Allen was on the verge of maybe breaking the career punt return record, and they called back a punt return for a mystery holding call that nobody ever could find. And there was no holding. The Iowa coach has been in the refs here, and they just threw a flag and called it back. And it was just atrocious. And he ended up not breaking that record. So I'm a little sensitive to that. And then there was another mystery call on that same drive that called back a touchdown. Think about that. They had 2 touchdowns on that possession called back, and they still went down and scored a damn touchdown.
Right.
I think that sums up this game for K-State. Yeah. That's what this team was about in this contest.
They were, and the offensive lineman even said it. We talked to Hayden Gillum after the game, and he said, after that punt return got called back, we had a little conversation on the sidelines, and he said, we're going to go score a touchdown. That's how we're going to go out. We're going to control how we go out. We're going to do this. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're going to do it. And they did. And a lot of that was due to the offensive lineman. But again, a lot of that was due to number 2, because the plays he was able to do improvisationally were
amazing.
They're different. They're just different.
Yep. Cooper Beebe, man. I was going back and watching the game again. I got news for you. Hosting the Fitzcast while trying to have a discussion and watch the game isn't a good way to watch the game.
Yeah.
Particularly when I had really bad computer issues in the second half. My computer decided to start to shut down, and if my computer shuts down, the whole podcast shuts down. So it was kind of a tense moment there. But one of the things Andre Ware got right in this game, and I totally forgot where I was going. Cole, I did it again. What?
Cooper Beebe.
Was that Cooper Beebe did it the right way. He came back. He played to the end of his career. He didn't fear that injury. He went out and played one more game with his brothers. And, Andre Ware's he's young to me, but he's an older guy, and he's got that old football mentality. You play every game you can play. You don't skip games. You don't quit on your team. He got on the NC State quarterback who played his 4 games and said, I'm going into the portal.
Yeah.
How NC State overcame that is impressive.
Yeah.
Because that's a real jackwagon move. Cooper Beebe was there. So were those other linemen. I was impressed. And boy, Cooper Beebe played well. His last block in college was a pancake. Just beautiful.
It sums it up, doesn't it?
Yep.
I mean, he's special. And I did have a chance to watch Nick Leckie on the Fitzcast a little bit, and I think you guys brought this up, but he's exactly right. Like, if I was in that situation, there's no way I'm not playing in this game, especially when you're as dominant as Cooper Beebe is. You're better than everybody. This is going to be the last time in your life that you're better than every single person on the field. You've got to take advantage of that.
Yep.
And he did. And then I don't know if you saw it, Fitz, but he walks into postgame with no shirt on, with no shoes on, and answers questions about how much he loves K-State. If there's anything that sums up who Cooper Beebe is, it's the fact that his very last media availability at K-State, he came in like that, just absolutely a man's man and a guy who is going to play in the NFL for a very long time.
Well, that sums it up. K-State wins that first ever Pop-Tarts Bowl. Hope it lives on for a long, long time. It was fabulous. Watching it on TV was fabulous. I'm sure being there was cool. Again, salute to the Kellogg's people who pulled that off. More bowls need to be exactly like that. Have some fun. And you guys rocked it down there in Orlando all week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It was fun. To celebrate one more time, I also have some more Pop-Tarts that I am going to take a bite of. Not live on the podcast like you did on the Daily Delivery, but when we get done recording, I'm going to have myself a chocolate chip Pop-Tart.
Well, I'm going to finish up this podcast so that I can do some radio and Cole can have some Pop-Tarts. K-State wins the Pop-Tarts Bowl over NC State. Great season, great game, nice finish, and a nice start to 2024. And we got so much to discuss during the offseason. I'm Fitz, he's Cole, and we appreciate you listening.
Thank you for listening to the Powercat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The calendar has flipped, which means it's time to join us on Fantasy Baseball Today, part of the CBS Sports Podcast Network. Join Scott White, Chris Towers, and me, Frank Stanfield, 3 times per week in January to kick off our 2024 Fantasy Baseball Prep. We're talking rankings, strategy, tiers, prospects, mock drafts, and everything in between. Make sure to download and follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Odyssey app, and everywhere else podcasts are found.
Sports bettors, it is time to level up. What's up, everyone? I'm Mackenzie Brooks, host of Sportsline's newest show, Inside the Lines. And I'm taking you behind the scenes with the brains behind the Sportsline model. What's the Sportsline model? It is the backbone to the numbers and projections across CBS Sports, coded to replicate odds makers and forecast outcomes for all major sports. From line movement to injuries that will impact player props to overall value picks, using the model's projections, we got you covered. The best part, we are here to answer your questions live, straight from the chat. So get ahead of the lines and the public weekdays at 1 p.m. with data and analysis you cannot find anywhere else. Bring your questions and let's cash with the model.